So let's talk about all these 4 different authorization flows in Auth 2.0. I will talk about what all I am using and what all are popular, right? So PKC, this is whatever the demo I was showing, all are PKC code grant flow, right? How it works, let's talk about it. So authorization code flow with PKC, what happens? This is useful for the web application, mobile application, or maybe Electron web app or something, right? Use a code exchange that supports the refresh token. I have shown you in the diagram that authorization server sends the auth code, and in the exchange of auth code, we get the access token. That is a code exchange happens, right? So flow is app redirect user to authorization server. When you click on login with Google, what happens is it is taking you to the Google authorization server. You enter your email and a password, and then it asks you for the consent. Then authorization server redirect you back with some code, right? The auth code, and the application exchange that auth code and gets the access token. This is the PKC, the most popular, and this is what we see everywhere. Why PKC? Like public client mobile app can't store secrets safely. So PKC adds security on top of that by exchanging the auth code with the access token, right? We can see this flow in the diagram also. This is the typical PKC user. What user will say login with the Google. The client will redirect with the code challenge or with the login. You do the enter your username, password, and give consent, right? Then authorization server will redirect you with some code. Now what you will do is you will exchange the code. The application will exchange the code with the access token. You get the access token, and now you start accessing the protected resource from the API server, the app API server. Let's say the Notion app. So Notion has its own API server, which will give us the document, but we are using login with the Google. So authorization server is from Google. They are validating our Google account, and we are giving consent to Google to share this information. So they are returning the code, and the client app is exchanging that code and getting the access token. So this is the security which the PKCE flow is adding. So second in the line is the client credential flow or authorization code flow. Second is yes. So this is like when two systems wants to access things, right? So what we do is, let's say one server want to access the data from another server. What we can provide is we can provide some kind of a client ID secret key to authorized servers. Then server application returns the access token. App uses token to call the data API. So it's not like some two app systems are just talking with some API key. No. First, you will pass the client ID and a client secret to the authorization server. Authorization server will validate and will return you the access token. Now your application will use that access token to call the APIs, right? There is also a tiny diagram for the same. So this is machine to machine. Client will send a client ID and client secret to authorization server. Authorization server can be a third party. It will return you the access token. Now with the same access token, you will start accessing the API server. This happens when there is no client involved. That means we are machine to machine. Another machine will give us the access token in the exchange of the client ID and the client secret after validating it, right? So this happens when, let's say, I will give you a simple example. GitHub APIs, Google APIs. Let's say I want to access the YouTube API data. What I will write? I write a Node.js app. So that is also server-based application and YouTube APIs, right? So what I will doing? I will create a client ID and a secret from the Google Developer Console. I will call their SDK with the client ID and a secret. They will give me the access token, and with that access token, I will access the YouTube API data, right? So this is simple machine to machine, because to access the machine, I need access token, and for access token, I need to have a client ID and a client secret. So similarly for the Twitter APIs, let's say if you want to do some data mining on the Twitter data, you can use Twitter Developer Console. You will create your app. You will get a client ID and client secret. Using that, you will get access token. And using that access token, you will access the Twitter APIs to fetch the data, which is not public. So this is the machine to machine. Another is a legacy. Okay, you provide username, password, send credential to authorization server. authorization server will give you the access token, and access token you will use to access the APIs, right? This is, I mean, this is not typically auth flow. This is the legacy and deprecated. What we are doing is, there is a, let's say there is a auth service, right? Auth service is giving us the token by in the exchange of username password, and then we are using that access token to access our own internal APIs. Okay, so these are the typical flows, not important. You just need to focus on the PKC flow. That is more important for the auth flows. Now in the next video, let's talk about all the building blocks of auth.